conference and more. We're joined by Jeenah from the Afro-Middle East Center. Mr. Jeenah, it's always a pleasure having you join us. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you, Samira.
Well, we've seen South Africa having consistently championed Palestinian self-determination on the global stage, and unapologetically so. So what does its endorsement of the UN-led two-state conference signal about Pretoria's evolving strategy in influencing peace efforts in the Middle East?
The South African government has been consistent on this issue, supporting the Palestinian cause, the Palestinian struggle, opposing the genocide that's taking place in Gaza through the ICJ case, its role in the Hague Group, etc. So it's been consistent, but it's also been consistent on this issue of a two-state solution. And frankly, the conference today is. It's a damn squib, really. All these governments that are meeting, that have met today, all of them put together cannot get one bottle of water into Gaza when people are starving to death, being starved to death. And yet they want to talk about, imposing a two-state solution, disarming the Palestinian resistance. It's all ridiculous talk. The two-state solution right now is not even a viable thing. I mean, last week, the Israeli parliament passed a resolution to annex the whole of the West Bank. So what kind of two-state solution are you talking about? Is France and Saudi Arabia going to impose such a solution on Israel when they can't even, as I say, get a bottle of water into Gaza?
Now, Mr. Jeenah, given South Africa's history of apartheid and its solidarity with Palestine, does backing a two-state solution contradict its long-standing moral positioning, especially when some argue for a one-state democratic solution instead? I mean, I'm reading into your statement that today's conference was just a damn squib.
Yes, look, this has been the position of the South African government, and the reason initially that they took this position was because they believed that they should abide by international law. Now, of course, we have UN General Assembly resolutions around a two-state solution. So the notion that this conference is going to start something new is ridiculous. There's a number of resolutions in the UN about a two-state solution. All of those resolutions on paper, and Israel continues to violate them, but goes beyond violating them, making any idea of a two-state solution completely impossible. The expansion of settlements in the West Bank and in East Jerusalem, the siege and now genocide in Gaza. There's no possibility of a two-state solution. What this conference is effectively going to do is they're going to say that we want a solution where we have a Palestinian Bantustan, as it is now. And, in the South African case, following on your question, in the South African case, we rejected the idea of Bantustans.
Yeah. And South Africa has been quite vocal in calling for accountability over Israeli actions in Gaza. I mean, the ICJ case comes to mind. How do you interpret the diplomatic balance Pretoria must now strike in supporting a two-state framework while also demanding justice for war crimes and human rights violations?
I think that South Africa, as part of the Hague Group, as part of BRICS, as part of the non-aligned movement, needs to raise the issue of reconsidering this whole idea of a two-state solution. Really, the only way for justice for all of the people between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea is a single democratic state where everyone who lives there has equal rights.
Now, the United Nations Secretary General, we've just seen, describing the situation as having reached
I'm sorry,
a breaking point.
There's someone in one of your crew that just keeps talking, and I can't hear your question.
Okay, no worries. We do apologize about that. But let's move on to the UN Secretary General having described the situation as having reached a breaking point. What does this phrase mean in practical geopolitical terms, especially against the backdrop of the war in Gaza and the West Bank's growing instability?
Well, this is the question, Simpiwa. I mean, by some accounts, I'm not looking at the very conservative figures by the Gaza Ministry of Health, which many experts are now saying, are just ridiculous. By many studies, the estimates of the number of people killed in Gaza thus far is somewhere between 250 and 450,000. That's about 20% of that population of the Gaza Strip has been murdered thus far. So you talk now about reaching a breaking point when this genocide has been clear and been going on for 21 months. I mean, if Israel continues, in September, the UN General Assembly will meet again, and they'll say again that there's a breaking point. Again, I make the point that all of these governments put together, France is a member of the G7, France is a member of NATO, France is a nuclear armed nation, can't get a single bottle of water into an enclave that clearly people are being starved to death. So, what does all of this mean? A breaking point. What breaking point? The breaking point was reached more than a year and a half ago.
All right, Mr. Jeenah, great chatting to you. We do appreciate your analysis.
Thank you.
So many analysts argue that this two-state solution is no longer feasible due to facts on the ground, including settlements, land fragmentation, deep mistrust. And South Africa's leadership on Palestine has often been challenged domestically, with critics arguing that it sort of diverts from local priorities. Naeem Jeenah, senior researcher from the Afro-Middle East Center, joined us to analyze South Africa's decision to throw its weight behind the United Nations-led conference on this two-state solution between Israel and Palestine.